Good morning, Sedona. It is Saturday, September 14th, 2024. And at 10 a.m. each week, you know it's time for Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Red Rock Country's radio magazine. We're coming to you from the beautifully overhauled KAZM Mellow Mountain Radio studio in West Sedona on 106.5 FM and 780 AM. And we also live stream the show at www.mellowmountainradio.com. So, folks, this is a radio show that each week explores all the fascinating aspects of life in Sedona and the Verde Valley and the area's intriguing personalities. And my guests right now are looking at each other saying, we're intriguing personalities? That's good to know. And our shows are also transformed into podcasts, which can be heard on Apple and Amazon Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Our sponsor for the entire month of shows in September is Laser Girl Skincare, owned by the delightful skincare superhero herself, Anita Marcus. The Laser Girl Skincare operation now serves all of northern Arizona, as their expert teams can not only be found in Sedona, but also in Flagstaff, Cottonwood, and Prescott. Probably by the time we get to 2028, she's probably going to have a location everywhere, like in Maricopa County. Anyway, at Laser Girl Skincare, they remove what you don't want and beautify what you do want so you can own your youth. For more information, go to their website at lasergirlskin.com or call 928-277-1107. That's 928-277-1107. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my sponsor, Laser Girl Skincare, later in this morning's show. So, folks, our topic for this week's Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks focuses on a local program that I knew nothing about until my two special guests in the studio informed me about this a few weeks ago, and I felt it was fascinating enough to feature on this show. The program, which they are going to explain a lot better than I will, is called STEP, which stands for Sedona's Tools Empowering People. And it's sponsored by the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance and the Sedona Public Library. And I'm going to leave it to my guests to explain what this unique program is all about. But before I introduce them and start the conversation, it's once again time for our top of the show segment, Stephen's Sedona Scene. When I tell everyone in my listening audience about some terrific events happening over the upcoming week and sometimes beyond in Sedona and the Verde Valley. So, folks, beginning today, the minute this show is over and running through tomorrow, September 15th, is the second annual Jerome Music and Arts Festival presented by the Jerome Chamber of Commerce. This festival starts at 11 a.m. each day with activities scheduled until 10 p.m. today and until 7 p.m. on Sunday tomorrow. This year, the festival has added a tent at the basketball courts near the famous sliding jail, whatever that is, with a main stage for headlining bands and an acoustic lounge stage for solo performers with comfortable lounge seating. The tent will have a $10 daily admission charge with in and out privileges, with a bar serving only quality Arizona wine and beer. Other than the tent admission fee, it's all free, with over 40 of Jerome's favorite musical acts performing in 10 different locations, bringing the fun to the whole town. And 17 professional artists will be painting in the upper park, where there will be musical performers on stage, along with special activities for the kids, including, of course, face painting, and an arts table staffed by the Jerome Art Workshop. Greeters will be on hand throughout town with maps and schedules to keep you on track of the schedule and the many locations, activities, and performers. In addition to the regular parking in town, free parking will be available in the large parking lots above the fire station at the Old Jerome High School. Free shuttle service will also be provided. For updates and further details, please see the festival website at JeromeMusicandArts.com. You know, sometimes when I read these things, I feel like the mayor in River City, Iowa, in The Music Man, talking about like what's going on in the local town that week. Anyway, be that as it may. On September 16th, Mondays at the Museum returns to the Sedona Heritage Museum, and the program will feature Verde Valley wood carvers. If you have a piece of wood and a wood carving table, come to the Sedona Heritage Museum from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Hundreds of people have tried their hand at carving with this group since its founding in 1997. The group consists of carvers ranging from beginners to master carvers. Come by with your own equipment or just come to watch these artisans do relief carving, chip carving, and bark carving. There is no fee for this demonstration. The Sedona Historical Society operates the Sedona Heritage Museum, located in Jordan Historical Park, 735 Jordan Road in Uptown Sedona, open daily 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, call 928-282-7038 or visit sedonamuseum.org. And my last two events, pretty much every week this summer on Stephen Sedona Scene, I've been telling you about the Starry Night Cinema Series when the Sedona International Film Festival presents films outdoors at Hillside Sedona, the Collective in the village of Oak Creek, and at the Wild Resort in West Sedona for Wild Wednesdays. This coming Tuesday, the 17th, at the Collective in the village of Oak Creek, 7000 State Route 17, the film festival presents the 2005 film Walk the Line, about the rise of country music legend Johnny Cash, who is played by Joaquin Phoenix. Walk the Line was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, and Reese Witherspoon won the Oscar for her portrayal of Johnny Cash's wife, June Carter Cash. Walk the Line will be screened outdoors under the stars on the festival's giant outdoor screen with their state-of-the-art projection and sound. The festival's mobile concession stand will have movie treats available. Now, I'm really jazzed about the film showing the next night on September 18th at the Wild Resort and Spa, which is on 2250 West State Route 89A in West Sedona. Ryan? Yeah, I got to wake him up so he can talk to me. Do you want to guess what the film is going to be that I'm going to go see at the Wild Resort? Any possible?
Does it have anything to do with Elton John?
Does it have anything to do with Elton John? Yes, you are correct.
Oh my gosh, what
a surprise!
Yeah.
The film, right. I never miss an opportunity to mention Elton John in any of my shows. So Ryan was all prepared for that. It is Elton 60 live at Madison Square Garden, screened in the Grove Fire Pit Garden at the Wild. This is the film that was a live recording of Elton John's then record-breaking 60th sellout performance at Madison Square Garden, which was on his 60th birthday on March 25th, 2007. The concert features many of Sir Elton's greatest hits, all of which I will be singing at full voice because, as I've mentioned many times on this show, Elton John is my musical idol. So if you want to see the film and hear me singing along, bring your lawn chair or a blanket and relax in front of a massive outdoor screen. Enjoy food and beverage offerings from Chef Mercer Moore and his modern diner restaurant, Rascal. As always, the festival's mobile concession stand will have movie treats available. Again, tickets are only $7 each, and kids 12 and under are free of charge. Visit the Film Festival office at 2030 West Highway 89A in West Sedona to get tickets in person. For more information and tickets online, visit sedonafilmfestival.org. And Ryan, I hate to bring this up, but Elton John at one time held the record for most concerts at Madison Square Garden. But once Billy Joel booked a residency there for years, Billy Joel ended up with 150 Madison Square Garden concerts, while Elton only had 72, which kind of bums me out.
I feel like there should be an asterisk
exactly.
with that residency.
Exactly. And just a little quick, a little personal note on Elton John concerts. In 1974, on Thanksgiving night, Elton John did a concert at Madison Square Garden. I had just become a big fan. And my brother stayed overnight. This is when you had to go to the venue and like sleep overnight to get good tickets. And he got his tickets in row 16 in the orchestra for that concert, and that was the show that John Lennon came out and performed with Elton John on stage, which like blew the place away. It's like incredible, yeah. So anyway, just a little humor to break up the levity there. But anyway, what doesn't bum me out is having the two women in the studio with me today. Peggy Chaikin is a retired teacher and longtime resident of the Verde Valley who lived in Sedona 16 years, but I hope I have this right, but also lived in Clarkdale, Cottonwood, and Flagstaff.
Yes.
You've been in many places as Anita has Laser Girl operations.
Yes.
Peggy was a founding member of the Friends of the Verde River, who I had on my show a couple weeks ago. Peggy is currently a board member at Keep Sedona Beautiful, and in that role, she participates in the Arizona Climate Action Coalition. But the main reason she's here today is that she is a volunteer with the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, which collaborates with the Sedona Public Library, where Sedona Tools Empowering People, otherwise known as STEP, operates out of. My other guest is Dr. Frances Julia Reamer, otherwise known as Frankie, who is a professor in educational foundations at Northern Arizona University and affiliate faculty in women's and gender studies. Dr. Reamer is a co-founder and on the board of the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance and has been involved in development, writing, and adoption of municipal climate action plans. Dr. Reamer speaks locally and internationally on gender and climate change and grassroots action around climate and is co-producer of People's Climate Solutions, a clearinghouse for information on local action around climate. She's also the author of a number of books and research papers. And my friend Frankie is also a political activist as a board member of the Democrats of the Red Rocks. Ladies, after all that, finally I get to welcome you to Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We're really excited, among other people, excited about STEP and what it offers the community.
So I guess the first thing we should share with the listening audience, and it's kind of another items in Stephen's Sedona scene, is that on Wednesday, September 18th, from 2 to 6 p.m., the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance is celebrating the 6-month anniversary of this STEP program with tool cookies at the STEP table at the Sedona Public Library. Everyone is invited to have a tasty tool tidbit, which kind of sounds like it's edible. I think that means it's edible.
We shall see.
Learn more about the program, meet STEP volunteers, and borrow tools for projects. And before the show, Peggy told me, this was kind of amazing, there are almost 500 tools involved in this program, and 88 people have been coming to borrow tools. So now that I've imparted all that vital information, ladies, I want you to take over because I've talked enough. Peggy, I guess we'll start with you. What on earth is a tool lending library, and what is this program all about?
A tool lending library lends tools just like a library lends books.
Mm-hmm.
There are entities called libraries of things that lend out various items that a library might also have, which our library does lend out some things, but it doesn't have space for tools such as rakes and shovels and sewing machines and car waxers and leaf blowers. And so we do that as a service, as a called the circular economy model, where people who have tools that are not being used, or people who are downsizing, or have a deceased member of their family who is a tool lover, donate them for community use.
Right. It sounds like, how are tools being defined here? Because it sounded like a few things that you mentioned sort of fall into like the pseudo appliance category as well. Is it? So it sounds like it's a broad, because 500 tools is a lot of tools.
Well, it's an eclectic mix because the library is going going to be going through a remodeling phase. And I know Judy Poe, who's so busy she couldn't be here this morning, but has the vision of also a library of things.
And Judy is what? At the library?
She's a librarian at the Sedona Library. She's the manager librarian.
Okay.
And we consider tools that are for domestic use, I would say kitchen tools, as tools just as valid as, power tools are.
So when people come in and bring these tools that they want to donate to the library, is there like a vetting process, for lack of a better phrase, like, oh, this is fine, but this is too old, we can't use it. Thanks for donating, but it's not really something anybody's going to borrow. Do they go through that?
Well, we did a lot of research on this, and one of the things that I researched was tool acquisition policies for various tool libraries, and then we got some fabulous volunteers.
So this is something that's a thing in various parts of the country.
It's international, actually.
Wow.
It's really a model that's...
Who knew?
There's a platform that we subscribe to. I know there are other platforms out there, but we subscribe to the My Turn platform. And listeners can go to myturn.com and see what that platform's philosophy is about, supporting sustainable communities and reducing waste. And this mission for My Turn coincides beautifully with Northern Arizona Climate Change mission. So we subscribe to that platform where our tool library operates as an online inventory that you can look at, and then you can put tools in your virtual shopping cart.
Like when you go on like marketplace sites and see what people are selling and...
Exactly, but you're not going to pay for any of this.
Exactly. That's wild. When people borrow things, how long is there a time limit to how long they can use them?
We had some really amazing speed registration shopping checkouts recently where it took basically like 15 minutes for someone. A young man the other day had 2 children with him. One was on his shoulders. We even took a picture of it. The other was holding his hand, and he was registering with his phone. And then he filled his shopping cart with some gardening tools, which I wonder if he's going to put these kids to work. But, he walked out of the library with these tools. One of our volunteers went to the shed and picked them up for him.
Wow.
The patrons are not allowed to go to the shed because of insurance reasons.
Sure, yeah.
But we have runners. So, we have some tool experts that monitor if we want the tools or not, tool acquisition. We have, some who actually have put some of our non-usable tools into a yard sale and gotten money that we use for replacement parts.
Right.
Blades and polishing, like mitts for our car wash, our car polisher.
Right.
Things that get worn out, or sometimes people donate tools that are missing parts.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes those parts...
They couldn't sell them at the garage sale, so they came over to you.
Right, exactly. That's how it works. But then again, sometimes the tools are too obscure that we can't get parts anymore. So that's kind of frustrating, but that's life, and we'd rather see them come through us and be analyzed and possibly get back into circulation than go directly into a dumpster.
Yeah. Do you get people like coming by and kind of doing trades? Like they'll bring tools that they want to donate but take other things that they want to borrow, or does that happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people have all kinds of things that and I myself, this is why I'm doing this also, because I can see I have many things that were part of a phase of my life, and now because of various limitations or interest level are no longer part of my life.
There you go.
But on the other hand, I just donated a Foley food mill for making applesauce. Although I love making applesauce and I love the Foley food mill, I could certainly borrow it from the tool lending library. I don't have to have it in my cabinet for use like once a day.
Something tells me that's one of those items that would be the only one that they have of what you just mentioned.
Of the Foley food
Yes,
mill.
yeah.
You know, but someone came in and said, and donated an apple core peeler, and you know who you are. I don't know if I should be naming names, but I'm not very good with names anyway. But
Do you think they're listening?
Really super appreciate these harvest tools that have been brought in,
Right.
like fruit pickers for
Wow.
getting fruit on the top of the tree, apple core peelers for getting your apples ready to go in the pot, large pot, the Foley food mill, the canning pot, and then canning jars so
Right.
somebody can actually make applesauce and put it away.
Do you get people bringing things that would almost be considered antiques?
We do, and we have sent some over to the Heritage Museum.
Is that right? I was going to, or the Verde Valley Archaeological.
Well, they're not like they're
Not
not
that old, right? We are an older community, but not quite that old.
No, but we had some fun looking at things that I myself like the aesthetic. I'm a visual person for the most part. I like the aesthetic of some tools, and I wish we had a large shed, not just for displaying the tools that we want to loan out, but I'd love to have a display wall. I know there's a restaurant in Camp Verde we used to go to that, I don't know if it's open anymore, that had tools all over their walls of these different farming ranch tools. It's just fascinating what people have invented and now are no longer used.
Yeah. What specifically do you do? Was your role in all this as a volunteer? What are you involved in?
Well, I'm one of the people that thought of this idea. Jim Gale and I have been working with NASCA for a while, and we came upon.
And Jim's a local resident who's been involved.
Yes. And we worked on getting petition signatures for the climate action plan for Sedona, and then we thought, well, we should do something else with the waste. Sedona Recycles does a fabulous job, but there's a whole other waste stream.
Yeah.
So I'm, from the very beginning, which was pre-COVID, I had a neighbor in my neighborhood who had a dumpster in front of her house because she had passed away. Her husband had passed away years before, and the relative came and hired the company that comes and cleans out the garage for a relative that might not live in the state. And they cherry pick things they want, but then they just loaded everything from the garage into the dumpster.
Wow. That's wild.
It's wild, but it isn't like it kind of happens here.
Yeah. This is fascinating stuff. So let's talk to the professor a little bit now. So Frankie, how did you come to get involved in this, and how does it relate to your professional work in climate sustainability, all the stuff that you do?
So first, thanks for having us. Super exciting to
My
talk
pleasure.
about this. And
Yeah.
I mean, Peggy, when you ask what Peggy's role is, I mean, Peggy has been Peggy was the co-originator of the idea and really kept this going through some difficult times. And this is a complicated project to pull off with volunteers, solely with volunteers. And on that note, the project has actually elicited new volunteers, which is so exciting and has tapped into folks who may not come out for climate issues, but now are coming out to think about circular economies and the relationship to what we do every day. I got involved with Northern Arizona Climate Change when it started, as did Peggy. And I've been on the board. And the model there is that in any community, folks can get together and think of an idea that works to solve climate-related, sustainable problems in that community. And the folks in Sedona got together, Peggy and Jim and a couple other folks, and thought, this is what we want to do. And got a grant. Got two grants, actually, funding for an intern, and then also a grant from the city for this to begin. And then nurtured a relationship with the library, And now it's off the ground, so we're super excited about that. I got involved when I moved to Sedona. I've always been sort of active, more with gender-related issues.
Sure.
But when I moved to Sedona, it seemed to me that it was just second nature to get involved with stewardship. And then, so I got involved with Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, started to talk about gender and climate, because we have an educator series. So, you can go on, our website, Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance. We have a whole series of folks talking about anything related to anything and everything, related to climate issues.
So considering that gender is one of your big topics, have you monitored whether there are as many women borrowing tools as there are men and donating?
So Peggy is nodding yes. I'll turn it over to Peggy for the figures, but I do have to say that I have talked with women as they've returned tools to the library, and the excitement in being able to start a job, borrow tools, finish a job is just so visible in people. But in terms of gender, I also want to say that we have had men volunteering who we don't see enough men, as I think Stephen, that we don't see enough men coming out for community activities. And so that's super exciting that we have a new group of volunteers that are men. So in this case, gender is working in a sort of different way because we often see in local work that women are more involved in volunteering.
Well, without being fostering a stereotype, we are talking about tools here. So you would
exactly
think
how genius is that,
Right.
right? It's like, I mean, that's why this project is.
I'm surprised
so
they don't walk to the
wonderful.
library wearing a tool belt with all kinds of stuff inside.
I believe
right?
it's not that far away from that.
That's
We actually have at our table, we've gotten donated some boxes with screws and washers and bolts and nuts and nails and hooks and eyes. And we just have them for people to take because some people don't have, like if they want to hang a picture. And we did have, we have some funny things happen. We have
I bet.
people come in and, our inventory has gone through, and it is continuing to go through some stages of clarification.
Yeah.
And there's a really far-reaching thing we can do by putting, we're looking for somebody to do this for us, the YouTube videos on how to use some things.
That's a
we
great
can
idea.
put those right onto our inventory. We can upload those. We just need to do that.
Right.
But we had a hilarious event where someone came in and wanted to borrow a hammer, and we on the inventory, the photo showed a hammer, looked reasonable. She borrowed the hammer. The hammer was like a child's toy hammer that we, in our ignorance, we thought, well, this could be fun. But then when we got it, we were coming out of the shed. We were like, it's not going to do the job. Well, it's just wonderful to have a box of hammers and to go, this is
Absolutely.
the job she wants. She's doing like a framing for mosquito netting, and there are projects, and it's not sexual, any orientation or anything, but you might, have moved here and not have the thing you need.
What's the tool that you may not be able to answer this, but what's the tool that you have the most quantity of? And I'm going to guess that it could be screwdrivers. I'm just going to throw that out.
You are right.
Really?
It's the screwdriver box, and we have any kind of screwdriver you'd ever
Okay, I
want.
now get to use whatever tool I want for a month. I'll go over there because I won that quiz question.
Well, we are going to have
For free. For free, you can use any. You can take out
That's right.
any tool you want for free.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
We are going to have a game we're cooking up at our table on Wednesday, and probably on the following week. That would be name this tool, because there are a number of tools that
Are very obscure.
and other people would
Yeah.
have no idea what they are.
I'm a New Yorker for my whole life. I wouldn't know what these tools are called.
Well,
That's why I said screwdriver, because other than hammer, those are the only two I know.
right. Well, it's we have photos of these obscure tools, and then we're going to have, please name this tool, and if you
That's great.
if you get, I think I'm trying to do 7 out of 10 or maybe 8 out of 10 correct, you get a prize.
Do you need an MC for this game show?
Well, you want to come? You come between
like
2 and 6.
1 out of correct is
Well,
a big deal, truthfully.
Yeah, it's it's in the lobby of the library, so voices need to not be too.
It could be.
And you have a commanding voice.
Well, thank you very much. I need to work on it though a little bit more. Before we go to break, I have a question for you, Frankie. Have you actually used the library for anything? Uh-oh, I hope I didn't put you on the spot there.
I
Make
have
something
not.
up.
I would say that my understanding of tools is less than yours,
okay.
Stephen. So,
okay. Well, you're an academic.
That's
so
right. And I
right.
do have a wonderful, wonderful handyman in town who I will refer if anyone is interested.
Well, that's the most requested tool.
The
The
handyman
is the
handyman himself,
handyman.
yeah.
for so many reasons, right? Yeah. But I have helped Peggy with checkout and bringing back, and I have been to the opening party, which is fabulous, and I have been a super advocate of the project. It, as you can imagine, insurance was a big issue, and again, this is a volunteer designed and run project. Insurance was a big issue, so we're really careful not to have tools that will cut anybody's arm off.
Right.
I think that's sort of the line that we draw.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a wide variety
Tools
of
that shut
possibilities.
off when you let go of them.
Oh, right, yeah. So there's a big difference between the tools you plug in and the screwdriver.
Yeah, well, there are some tools that you plug in that do shut off automatically, and
Right.
and then some that don't.
Right. So we're going to take a little break from my sponsor, and then we'll come back. And this is really a fun conversation. It's always cool to do like a show like this where you don't really know a lot about it, even if you research to prepare. But then you find out so much interesting information. So this is great so far. Anyway, our sponsor today and for all my shows in September is Laser Girl Skincare, owned by the Laser Girl superhero herself, Anita Marcus, who, by the way, has been one of the terrific past guests on Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks. Anita's operation now serves all of northern Arizona with their expert team in 4 convenient locations: Sedona, Flagstaff, Cottonwood, and Prescott. Laser Girl Skincare offers the latest in custom curating a personalized treatment program to match your specific needs at affordable pricing and that fits into your busy schedule. Laser Girl Skincare begins each visit with a thorough consultation to discuss your concerns, your medical history, and your lifestyle. They remove what you don't want and beautify what you do want for results that last long after you leave their clinic. Because at Laser Girl Skincare, they want you to own your youth. And in a place like Sedona, don't all of us want to do that? And I can personally recommend Laser Girl Skincare because I am a satisfied customer. And before you get any ideas about my treatment, because they do special like men's treatment in places that I won't say on the air, I'm just having my eyes worked on. That's it. And Anita's very proud of me for being a man and admitting that. So, it didn't get me any free sessions, but it was just fun. Anyway, for more information, go to their website at lasergirlskincare.com or call 928-277-1107. That's lasergirlskin.com, lasergirlskin.com, or call 928-277-1107. So let's get back to Frankie. What else can you tell? I mean, I know you're involved in the PR, the publicity for the organization, and you also do that for the Democrats of the Red Rocks. And speaking of something political, and I don't know if this really applies, but I have a little political brain.
I do know that.
Yeah. So a program like this, which it kind of involves climate and sustainability, is that an issue for anybody who may be more conservative, who's not a climate change person? So does that, or is this just like nonpartisan? Doesn't matter what political stripe you are, everybody needs tools. There's no political issue there.
Yes, to the latter. Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance is nonpartisan. We're very, very careful about what that means. I mean, sometimes we lean so careful that some of us struggle with what the importance of voting is, because we all know that voting is a very, very important aspect in stewardship, right? However that's defined. So very much nonpartisan. I do want to say, though, from a sort of an academic standpoint, that, as I mentioned before, this project is in some ways typical of a lot of local climate projects, in that they're started by volunteers to solve a problem in the community or solve a problem at their church. Their electric bills are too high, for example, whatever, or library. Most often based on the work of volunteers, but with some funding support. Enough funding support to just a jump start, which is what we had with the library, with the tool lending library. And so part of the way that this conversation gets political is that when we look at a document like Project 2025, we know that funding for any kind of project, from a church getting solar panels to something like helping out, starting a sharing economy lending library.
Retrofit programs.
Retrofit programs, which are very local, right?
Yeah.
And very popular with, none of that will be funded at all. And so it makes it so much more difficult for community members to get involved in projects that they honestly feel are going to positively benefit their lives and the lives of their neighbors.
You know, it's fascinating that you mentioned that part of it. I never thought that Project 2025 would get into the conversation, but I had my guest a few weeks ago was Andrew Watkins, who does a Substack newsletter called How Project 2025 is Going to Ruin Your Life. She does it almost every day, so I'm sure she's looking for subjects. And I'm going to talk to her after the show and say, you need to do a column about how Project 2025 is going to hurt tools in America and building.
Definitely hurt small community efforts to build sustainable communities. So that's unfortunate.
And we know that local, particularly around climate, we know that local efforts, local initiatives are what has moved the conversation forward, not at the national level, although we need the federal level, we need the state level support. Absolutely. But the energy has come from the ground level.
Yeah, I mean, this may be a big leap, but do you think that the national infrastructure program that we are now undertaking, thanks to the Biden administration, obviously a lot of these infrastructure programs and building are going to be done by big companies, but are there going to be some projects that they're going to need tools in the local communities to help build any of this stuff, or is that too wild?
The best community tool is our brain power and our hearts.
That's a very good answer.
That's a very good answer.
And when we build communities, we build an awareness of connectivity. And we build an awareness of the amount of energy we as individuals use unnecessarily. One tool I wanted to mention today is the kilowatt meter, which is something you can plug into your wall that will tell you how much energy is being used from that outlet. And you can plug an appliance in there and it will calculate how much that appliance is costing you in your electric bill. And then you can see that you can meter it to see that you want to unplug it when you're not using it, or put it on a power strip and turn off the power strip. Now, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here, but we have a box of these to lend out. People can borrow them and they can watch the YouTube video on how to use it. So it's taking personal responsibility to reduce your own energy consumption and the community's responsibility to reduce wasteful energy consumption in the production of new tools because old tools are going to the dump.
And that leads to what I was going to ask you next, which is, and both of you can answer this. So is the driving force behind this more about climate and sustainability, or is it just as much about helping people who may not have the resources to buy new tools? And we're in a fairly wealthy community, but there are people here that, would need to access this program. What would happen to the tools if they weren't being recycled? Would they just end up in dumps all over the place?
Yes, I think so. Well, there are, Habitat for Humanity would take some tools and sell them, and, they could go to different communities that are more needy. But we have had people come in and borrow tools to retrofit the van that they are living in. And they have a job in Sedona. I know people have heard about these people that can't find housing in Sedona.
Well, it's a big issue here with
and why are they retrofitting their van? They're not borrowing automotive tools. We have some automotive tools, not a lot. But they're borrowing tools so they can put insulation in their van so that they can sleep in their van at night when the heat island effect or the heat is not diminishing overnight. And so we've had someone come and retrofit their van with insulation. That's a very basic level of need for somebody who works here, who serves the community. So there's a full range. There are people who donate the tools that their husbands have left behind. There are people who come in who borrow tools because they moved here and they want to trim the hedges because they realize nobody has ever done that and they don't have the money to hire a handyman. And plus, they like the work.
Of course,
Doing work feels good.
Yeah.
So
hard work is good work, as Kamala Harris likes to say now.
Exactly. So I forgot what your question was, but I kind of
it was about whether it was more about sustainability than it was about helping people who maybe have a hard time like buying new tools. And
well, sustainability also is a word that you can interpret in many, many ways, and sustaining the energy and cohesiveness of a community is really important.
Right.
To have like older people at a table who are kind of lending intergenerationally and kind of I'm like a carnival barker there at the table going, have you heard about the tool lending library? To people walking by with young kids. I mean, this is our next generation here in Sedona. They obviously are going to the children's room and then they have kids, they live in Sedona. You can borrow things that will help you. We actually have a, what do they call? It's like a portable playpen.
Mm-hmm.
We have booster seats. We don't have a lot of kid-oriented things. But, if you could put some food away, like applesauce for your kids for next winter, that's really fun. It's fun to make applesauce with your kids. I did that with my kids.
Do you have people bring things like old cell phones or eyeglasses, like reading glasses, stuff like that?
No,
is that
that's not really a thing that really would be lent out.
Right.
The Lions gets the old eyeglasses. Old cell phones is wonderful to donate.
But you just should recycle those. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Or a lot of the time, the sanctuary would give them to the women that are needing to move to another community and have a different cell phone number.
God. I want to leave a few minutes before the end of the show because both of you are very political. And I want to get into a brief political conversation. But just before we do that, Frankie, can you tell everybody what they should do, how they should contact the organization, who would be better to just run through the contact information? And when I did that at the beginning of the show a little bit, but it would be good to refresh people's memory.
And I do want to go back to your question.
Okay.
And I would say the answer is yes, and that the genius of this project is it does so many things. It establishes their sustainability around developing community, which in these times where partisanship and hostility and antagonism has been nurtured, right? Didn't come out of nowhere. This is that's a political project to instill hate in communities. What this does is the opposite, right? You have an older guy talking to a young gal, maybe with a baby, about tools, and they're excited about the same thing. So, as well as contributing to a sharing economy, as well as helping folks out, and getting volunteers from a whole different group of folks. It's just
I would just want to add about I am, I would say, a political minded person, but I do encourage people to analyze candidates for their views on these topics. Water conservation, waste reduction, air quality, things that have been moved forward in the last 4 years and were pulled back the previous years. You would analyze the candidates' stances. It's up to and responsibility for adults to really be selective and choose the people that see what's happening in the world and see the need of a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well said, really.
So, contact information, you can go online you can visit the Northern Arizona website. You can also visit www.nazca.org/tool-library, or you can contact step.tool.library@gmail.com. You can just go to the Northern Arizona Climate Change website. Just Google that in as well. And
absolutely.
Also, there's a link at the Sedona Public Library, so you can get in that way as well. And you can stop at the library every Wednesday. This coming Wednesday is the celebration of 6 months, and we have the tasty tool tidbits. So
they're going to be cookies shaped like what kind of tool? Is there?
Well,
you're not going to give it away.
Peggy has. Yes, I guess we really do want people to come and see what kind of tool cookie they might pick out.
We really want people to register and go online and look at the inventory. And then maybe they'll be challenged to see if they're going to find a hedge trimmer cookie.
I want a cake.
That's right, a cookie that matches.
I want a cake shaped like a shop vac. That's what I'm going to take that with me. So
we do have a shop vac.
You name it.
Are you a cake baker?
No, I'm a cake eater. That's why.
You just want a shop vac size cake.
That's right. Exactly.
I get it. Okay,
I'll share it. I'll bring it to the studio. Ryan, you can have some. It'll be great. Anyway.
So this Wednesday 2 to 6, come to the library. Before you come, check out the tools that are available. Register, and we'd love for folks to learn more about the project and to join us.
That's great. And then after you do that, you can come over to the Wild Resort and see the Elton John film.
That's right. And sing along with Stephen.
And sing along with me. Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. All right. Sorry. Ryan, don't cut me off.
Many of us of a certain age know many Elton John lyrics.
That's right. So thank you. And by the way, I will also be posting the link to the site that Frankie just mentioned when I post the podcast on my Facebook page. So you can also pick it up there, which will probably be online by the end of the day. Wow. You'll be able, and I'll send you guys the podcast links. So in the few minutes we have left, so both of you are very political. Frankie, you're on the board of the Democrats of the Red Rocks like I had been. Now I'm still a member and very active.
I too had been.
You have been.
That's right.
So let's, where can I go with this? I want to try.
Go with this.
I haven't talked to either of you since the debate. So I just like to get quick takes. A lot of people have talked about this on the media. I think anybody who's a Kamala supporter or a Democrat has praised her to the skies, but I'd like to hear your interpretation of what you felt. Frankie, why don't you start?
Yeah, so for me, I'm super excited about how many young people have rallied. I've talked to, I'm at a university. Of course, we are nonpartisan at the university, but when I see young people, I often, say what's going on, or what are people talking about? And folks are really excited. There's a new energy, which I think is so healthy. And also, I think that the message that the Democrats are putting out is one that is really exciting and positive and healthy. And I'm super glad that the Democrats were able to rally very, very quickly. That no time was wasted in figuring out what's the problem, how do we solve it, and move forward. Which is not always the case, unfortunately, with the left. And I think we're excited. We're super excited also at the local, how this translates to the local level. We have a lot of local races that are going to be very, very difficult given the history of gerrymandering that happened the last go around. But we have such wonderful candidates, and you can check out the Democrats of the Red Rocks website. We also have slate cards that are going out to everyone.
And if they come tomorrow to the picnic between 1:30 and 4,
exactly,
they can see the candidates.
They can meet many of the candidates that are running.
That's right.
That's right. Also, maybe Peggy, you want to put a plug in for the Arizona Corporation Commission?
They're going to be there tomorrow. I've had them on the show.
Yes,
terrific group of people.
Thank you. There are issues with the Corporation Commission, the present Corporation Commission, and there are issues with the public's awareness of the actual existence of the Corporation Commission. So it is really an opportunity not to be missed. This election is to vote for 3. I say vote for 3D on the CC, because the Corporation Commission, as it presently is filled right now, does not serve the economic needs of ratepayers. And also in other parts of the state, more or less allows some fossil fuel development that is detrimental to the marginalized community.
I'm glad you tied it back to climate.
Well, that's really where it is, because if people don't recognize the great need for us to be transitioning, and that brings me back to the debate, I feel that, say if you could criticize Vice President Harris in one way about her change in view on fracking, that would be one area. But it shows flexibility, and I wish she would frame it in terms of our transition period here and the need for not being black and white on energy and energy sources, but moving away, just as we've moved away from coal, moving away from fracking and natural gas. And it's difficult for people to see a transition, but certainly the climate is giving us a transition which is in the wrong direction. And we need to, not in a healthy direction. And we need to counteract that with our response, which is to reduce the use of these detrimental products.
Right.
But I was just really so happy that she was able to be presidential, because she has been vice president, and that's not a small role. And she needs to own it, and own as she transitions into how she is going to be different than Biden, yet supportive of many things that have not even been played out yet, that are so positive that you can see were enacted.
Right. Well, I'm certain that she has a lot of policies and ideas in her pocket that she's just not going to talk about until she finds out if she gets a Senate and a House.
Absolutely.
To support her.
Yeah, no,
but then it'll all come out in the wash. Speaking of the fracking thing, just a quick point, and I could be wrong about this. You probably know better than I would. The double-edged sword that a candidate, it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat, faces when they do these debates, and just in dealing with the media in general, is they get criticized for not being detailed enough, but then they have to do a debate where they get, I think in Kamala's case, in the last one, 25 minutes to talk about 8 zillion issues. So when something like fracking comes up, I think her position is based on her understanding of what the fracking policy will be now, which is, and what that involves, as opposed to what it was maybe like 8 years ago when people were talking about, Democrats were talking about how bad this was. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but there just isn't enough nuance.
Nuance is the operative word.
Yeah.
That is really missing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't allow for it. So
Yeah.
I applaud her for not doubling down and being somebody who's inert in their, I would say, her opponent has non-policies that he doubles down on.
Yeah.
So
I'm hearing people on the talk shows saying, well, she's kind of becoming a little bit more moderate for the general election. I don't see that. She's not becoming some kind of like middle of the road Democrat.
I'm not worried about that because
Yeah.
I feel that she's a sincere person
Right.
and she's smart and educated and she can see the writing on the wall and the great need that we have during this transition to enact policies that will be beneficial for our air and water quality, period.
And just to tie it up with one last comment, I think anybody who's been paying attention since the day Donald Trump declared he was running in 2015 can see that his whole shtick has now come full circle on demonizing immigrants. It started with Mexicans, now it's with Haitians. I mean, look, we can all
Haitians and dogs.
Haitians,
I mean,
yeah.
Substitute people of color.
that's right.
Yeah, Mexicans,
I mean,
Haitians, and dogs, oh my.
I mean, the choices are very clear around every issue, particularly because we're talking about climate, particularly around climate. And yes, so I think there's a strong pushback on the particulars. Fracking is a good example of that. But, running for president is different from being a vice president. It's different from being a senator. It's different from being a prosecutor. It's a job unto itself. And so I think Vice President Harris brings her true self to the job. But it is a different job from being vice president. She was a very good vice president. I think she will be a very good president. Mm-hmm. And we can see the current administration's acts like the Inflation Reduction Act really do support efforts at the local level, the kind of efforts we're talking about today.
I just want to say that she had the job as vice president to help with the refugee problem, and a lot of the people are climate refugees. A lot of political disruption in those countries due to climate.
Great point. Well, and I'll just close that part of the conversation by saying we definitely don't want her vice presidency replaced by a J.D. Vance vice presidency. That would be
a
step too far.
We don't even want his name to be the last name.
Right. So, well, that's all the time we have for today's episode. I really want to thank my special in-studio guests, Peggy Chaikin and Dr. Frances Jules Reamer. It is Reamer, right?
Reamer, exactly.
Otherwise known as Frankie, we like to call her, for both being here today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And it was a great conversation. I learned so much about this program. I hope everybody listening will participate. Special thanks to my show sponsor for the entire month of September, Laser Girl Skincare, owned by the skincare superhero herself, Anita Marcus. The Laser Girl Skincare operation now serves all of northern Arizona, as their expert teams can not only be found in Sedona, but also in Flagstaff, Cottonwood, and Prescott. At Laser Girl Skincare, they remove what you don't want and beautify what you do want, so you can own your youth. For more information, go to their website at lasergirlskin.com or call 928-277-1107. Thanks as always to my tremendous producer in the booth, Ryan Thompson, who indulged me all my Elton John conversation today once again, and who, after the show, as always, will send me the audio that will transform this podcast into a podcast version of Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks that you can listen to anytime on Apple and Amazon Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also find Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks on Facebook And you can email me with comments and questions to Stephen@mellowmountainradio.com. Join us again next Saturday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. when I'll be joined by award-winning producer, director, playwright, actor, and president of the Emerson Theater Collaborative and the Arts Academy of Sedona, Camilla Ross, who is directing the upcoming presentation of the Alfred Urey Pulitzer Prize-winning play Driving Miss Daisy at the Verde Valley School in the village of Oak Creek in early October. But for now, I thank you all for listening to Red Rock Country's radio magazine. And by the way, tune in to the Patriotic Progressive at 8 a.m. every Saturday.